This is development services section. Deputations, petitions, presentations, and public meetings, we have none. Unfinished business, we have none. Other agency reports, consent agenda, I have a number that have been pulled. Number 5.4.1 B, zoning bylaw amendments. One has been pulled by the mayor to prohibit, the tree, talking about the destruction of the trees. The other, number 2, is to request the lift holding Bay Cliff Homes. And there's some others here. Under building department matters other, the urban guidelines, design guidelines for townhouses and apartments, it's pulled by me. Revised growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, that was pulled by me. Exemption to procurement policy for planning consulting services, myself and the deputy mayor. Director of Economic Development and Tourism, Community Hub. There's quite a few in this one. Item number B, administration. Oh, I am. Maybe, hang on. Okay, economic development. So the last one, thank you. The last one is the exemption to procurement policy for planning consulting services. So, if there are any disclosures of interest, please let me know as we go through the agenda if anything comes up. So I guess we can move to the Development Services section of Coordinated Committee, approval of the agenda, and we'll look at all the items as they come up. So I have a motion here. Resolved that the Development Services section of Coordinated Committee hereby receives the July 20th, 2017 consent agenda items 5.1 through to 5.4.3, and that all the recommendations contained therein be adopted as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Boulanger.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi.
In favor.
Councillor Bray.
In favor.
Councillor Ego.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor.
Councillor Stockwell.
In favor.
Chair Smith.
In favor.
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, so we will move into the items that have been pulled. So let me go back to the beginning here. Item 5.4.1, item B, bylaw 2004-72, being a bylaw to prohibit or regulate the injuring of or destruction of trees on private property in the town of Wasaga Beach, bylaw update and consolidation. Mayor Smith, I believe you pulled this.
I did. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'm looking for some clarity with respect to the destruction of trees on private property. My understanding is that today, if you are a property owner and you want to go on into your property and cut down a single tree or 2 trees, that you can do that without any issue. And as I understand, as I'm reading through this, and I want clarity that in future that will not be permitted. You will need a permit. Am I accurate in that, or am I misunderstanding the regs?
Well, we'll ask our planner, Doug Heron, to come to the table and answer that for us.
Now think about it before you answer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Perhaps to better understand the answer to the question, a little history of the bylaw is in order. The bylaw was first created not to regulate the removal of trees from private properties, and particularly not to regulate trees on single detached lots. It was originally created to control developers from clear-cutting large blocks of land in advance of even making applications for planning approvals. So basically, they were presuming the decision of council. So the bylaw was created to require large developers to secure tree cutting permits, and basically it was a stopgap to stop that from happening. Over the years, the bylaw has been amended a little bit, so it now includes commercial lands as well. And it includes large blocks of lands where the trees are, part of a large woodlot. But the decision of council of the day is that council did not want to regulate the permitting cutting trees on small residential lots. And that continues today in the bylaw. The bylaw does not apply to small individual lots.
So if I may, Madam Chair, to be clear, these amendments will not affect that. It'll stay the same. If you're a private property owner and you want to cut down some trees on your property, no issue.
That's correct. The parameters are if the lot is 1 hectare or larger, it would apply. If the lot is part of a large woodlot, it would apply. If the trees are identified as a natural hazard in the official plan, it would apply. And if it's commercial, it would apply. So if you have a small single detached lot in the town of Wasaga Beach, and typically they're about 5,000 square feet, 50-foot frontages, this bylaw would not apply to them. The purpose of this bylaw coming forward is it all has to do with the emerald ash borer. And staff wanted it to make it very, very clear in the bylaw that the removal of ash trees would not be hindered by the terms of the bylaw. So that owners would have free rein to remove ash trees to control emerald ash borer. And staff took the opportunity to consolidate the bylaw at the same time.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Geez, that makes sense.
Any further discussion or questions? Thank you, Doug. Having heard none, I have a motion that Development Services Section of Coordinated Committee recommends to Council that staff be directed to consolidate bylaw 2004-72, being a bylaw to prohibit or regulate the injuring or destruction of trees on private property in the town of Wasaga Beach, with bylaw amendment 2006-61 and bylaw amendment 2008-05. It was moved by Councillor Ego and seconded by Deputy Mayor Fulci.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger.
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Fulci.
In favor?
Councillor Bray.
In favor?
Councillor Ego.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell.
In favor.
And Chair Smith.
In favor.
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Save the trees.
The next agenda item is 5.4.1. Under zoning bylaw amendments, number 2, request for lift holding H bylaw, Bay Cliff Homes, Villas of Upper Wasaga, Phase 3, Plan 51M-1028, lots 1 to 80 and blocks 297 to 310, Middleton Drive, Autumn Drive, Lisa Street, and Emerald Street. And this was pulled by Councillor Belanger.
Yes, I've been in ongoing communication with residents from the area regarding concerns that all of council is aware of. This issue's come to council on 2 occasions already. I visited the site yesterday, and I can tell you that the condition of the site is, in my opinion, very poor, and I can certainly understand the concern from residents, which range ongoing dust issues. We were told that the developer would use, I believe it's calcium chloride to control dust. That has never happened. I was told that scraping was happening on an ongoing basis and every weekend, but it was clear when I visited very early in the morning that the scraping had not been done. It was indicated that all the sod would be in by the end of June, and clearly I understand we've had a tremendous amount of rain, and I certainly understand the delay in that, but absolutely no communication to a pretty small resident base. Probably 25 or 30 of those units are occupied, and the developer's well aware of the residents' concerns, made no attempt for communication. They go to their mailbox, the weeds are 3 feet higher than the mailbox, which is probably 5 or 6 feet high. The boulevard across from Pearl Street, you know, there's no maintenance being done. And although they did a garbage cleanup immediately after the first time this came to council, the garbage situation is terrible. Both the bins were full and overflowing when I was there. There's garbage everywhere. And frankly, I'm not prepared to support the lifting of the hold until the developer demonstrates that they have heard council and heard the concerns of the residents and done something about it on an ongoing basis. And I'm prepared to make a motion that we would not approve the left hold today, but at council next week, that we may be prepared to lift it, provided that in 1 week they make a concentrated effort to clean up the site. And further to that, other developers are facing the same situation. I went to the development on Golf Course Road, and they also have now multiple homes in the process of being built, and the difference between the two sites is day and night. Like, I mean, there's just no need for what we're seeing there. And if any one of us would have had to live in that for 3 years and look forward to it for the next 2 years, we would be screaming bloody murder too. So.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I guess just to those comments, has staff received complaints or phone calls from the residents there? Have staff been out to, I know we have Councillor Boulanger's take on it. Could have been there in the morning and the garbage trucks came that afternoon. Like, so I'm looking to staff as the ones who are tasked with monitoring these sites. What's your take?
So I can tell you that the town engineer has been in contact with Bay Cliff Homes and given the message that there was a disappointment that the sod was not installed as it had been, as committee had been previously told that it would be installed in June. I myself was on site yesterday as well, and I took the opportunity to visit several other sites just for a comparison value. And during my visit, I spoke with another site supervisor and asked them operational questions. And that other site supervisor made it clear that the type of soil is really critical to how a site will look. And in this case, with Bay Cliff Homes, it's clay. And it's been very wet this spring and this summer so far. So as the machines run up and down between the buildings, if it's a sand site, it's not an issue. But if it's a clay site, it is very much an issue. And the residents are suffering that issue with the tracking of mud onto the road. Now, Mr. Sarah Bellasingham from Caledon Hills Engineering is here in the audience as well. He represents Bay Cliff Homes. In discussions with him since my site visit yesterday, I'm advised that Bay Cliff Homes, they are scraping the roads daily. They do sweep and put water down on Saturdays. I've encouraged him to encourage Bay Cliff Homes to increase the frequency of the sweeping and also the watering, because there's no question, there's an impact. I've suggested to him that town staff meet with the site supervisor and with the owner as well, so that we can discuss improvements to the operations of the site. And in terms of garbage, I saw the same thing around the garbage bin. They were overloaded yesterday. There was garbage around the base of the bins. The entire site was much better than it had been reported back in the spring. But in comparison to other construction sites, I believe that there is room for improvement, and we can take this a little further with the developer.
Thank you, Deputy
But
Mayor.
it sounds like that's being handled between staff and the developer. It's being looked after.
That's correct. We're not blind to it. We do see what's happening. We do understand that there are a number of homes that are still being bricked on those streets, so the machines are still running in between the buildings. Through correspondence yesterday from Caledon Engineering, they're suggesting that the sod could go down within 2 to 3 weeks, based on the bricking schedule, and then getting the machinery out from between the buildings and do a final grade on the clay and get the grass down. But what staff are looking at is the entire site is clay. And so phases 2, phases 3, phases 4, we're going to continue having these issues. So it's worthwhile to have that discussion with the developer and the site supervisor and clarify what the town's expectations are in terms of its new citizens as they move into those neighborhoods. So I would say yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair, through you to Doug. Doug, phase 1 is complete?
Not quite. So the issues we're dealing with, that is phase 1 right now, so Middleton Road and I believe it's Falville Road and Pearl Street are all phase 1.
Would you say it's substantially complete?
Oh, very much so, yes.
So, Madam Chair, we have residents who are living in there, 25 to 30, that have been there for 3 years. And this particular phase is substantially complete. And I understand very well the challenges with clay and the challenges with the rain and the sod. But that is no excuse, Madam Chair, for the weeds being as tall or higher than the mailboxes. And it's not just at the mailboxes. I have driven through there in the last couple of days as well. It is no excuse for garbage to be all over and bins to be overflowing. The only reason this is happening is because someone's not calling to empty the bins because it costs money. And it's no excuse to have construction material in areas that it's not required anymore. And it's no excuse to have homes that should have been completed and sodded a long time ago, within the last 3 years, to not be done at this point. And so I understand the challenges of construction, believe me. But there are several issues in this particular area that are not being handled in a, I would say, professional manner. I understand they have staff on site on a regular basis. If I can drive through there, or anyone else can drive through there and see these issues very quickly, I don't understand why they're not seeing it. And I would like to see staff starting to go in and see this site on a regular basis to ensure that this continues. Because at the end of the day, our ratepayers, the people who have, negotiated in good faith and bought their home in good faith and are now living there and paying their taxes, are basically being treated like third-rate citizens now. Their neighborhood is a shambles. It's a construction site, and I'll be the first to say to anybody, you live in a construction site, you bought one of the first homes, and so you've got to expect truck traffic, you've got to expect some dust. But again, my understanding is that they have not used the chloride substance on the road that they said they would do. I was through there in early morning on 2 occasions. Clearly that road was not scraped the night before. So they can say they do it daily. Quite frankly, I just don't believe it, because I've witnessed it the very next morning. And traffic was just starting. So unless they were out there working at 3:30 on to create all of this dust and this clay that's stuck to the road, then it clearly wasn't scraped. So we can be told what we want, or what they can tell us whatever they like, but the reality is, I invite anyone to go look at the site. So there needs to be a clear message to the developer that this is not acceptable.
Thank you. Councillor Gray, I'll get you in a minute. I want Doug's comments.
I think it's worthwhile to make a point of clarification. The calcium chloride was volunteered by Bay Cliff Homes, I think 2 months ago, but the application was to be on the emergency road that goes from Pearl Street out to 45th Street. It was not to be put onto the asphalted sections that are under construction, just for clarity's sake.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Bray.
Thank you, through you to Doug. Phase 3 that we're talking about, the lift hold today, that would include the bridge that would allow for a separate construction access. So approving today this lift hold for phase 3, would that speed up the truck access through an alternate route so that they wouldn't have to continue going through the built houses?
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, there are 2 reports on the agenda today. One is for the lift hold for Bay Cliff Homes, and one is for authorization to proceed with the subdivision agreement for phase 3. The bridge is more closely related with the subdivision agreement. Securing that subdivision agreement, that Phase 3 subdivision agreement with the developer would allow the developer to proceed with the works, which include the bridge, the road, and there's a few other things. The lift hold is more related to the issuance of building permits over time. So as a standard, the town typically requires that the subdivision agreement be ratified before we lift the hold. So the lift to hold will take some time. We need to post the notice under the Planning Act in the newspaper. And until that subdivision agreement is ratified, staff won't be bringing the lift hold bylaw before council. So there is there are two separate items. The bridge is more related to the subdivision agreement, and the lift hold, we're bringing it forward now because it's timely, but it's not. It won't be required for at least 2 or 3 months.
And it still has to go through a public process, so we're not saying today, by approving this, go out and build. There's still a process for it to come back to council.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Belanger.
Again, Doug, I think you have, certainly been a lot more construction sites than me, so, I can appreciate your assessment. However, people on site that are there to maintain a site, and I have about 30 photographs on my phone if anybody wants to have a look. This is just a situation where there is not ongoing cleanup of very obvious issues that are, it's not tough, it's not expensive, it's negligence. And it would be one thing if we were dealing it for the first time. They've been through to see council on 2 occasions. They've had their residents here. Their residents continue to contact councilors and yourself. And despite all of that, the developer deems, I've probably seen the site more than the developer, I think. Or he just doesn't care. And the other thing is, I've been in the customer service business my whole life. God, I'd be throwing a barbecue and explaining to the residents that have already bought my homes for what it would cost to keep them on side and say, look, we apologize, the sod's not in for this reason and this and that, and have some kind of ongoing communication so that they're not dealing with this coming to council. This is not a tough fix. And I believe the residents have been very reasonable in tone and everything else. This is just a case of the developer either doesn't know or doesn't care what's going on their own site.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments around the table? Hearing none. I just have a comment as I see deja vu here. And it concerns me. Also, I'm very concerned about the bridge because I don't know, George, how many years is that bridge going to, come and gone and never been continued through? That bridge should be built first before they get going on the subdivision to make sure that the bridge is done. And I don't know. I'm not prepared to support this until that bridge is done and that they can get going and on the rest of the subdivision, but that's just my thoughts floating through at the moment. Yes, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm prepared to support this because I think we need to keep moving here. But at the end of the day, I think there needs to be some checks and balances put in place by the town with this specific developer in this particular case to make sure that they are maintaining the site in a reasonable manner for a construction site that should be or ought to be expected by anyone who lives there now. And I know that they're not. If we don't approve things and keep it moving, the bridge will never get built. And I think the developer, the last time they were at the table, or we talked about this in our last coordinated committee meeting, was that they were asking to move things forward in a more expedient manner so as that they can deal with the bridge as soon as possible. So I think it's important that we keep it moving. Checks and balances, as of today, I believe, and I'm fine to leave that up to staff how they're going to deal with that, but need to be in place. Someone needs to be going to that site and saying, look, this site's a bloody mess, clean it up. And because people are living there, and I could go on forever, but that's all I have to say, Madam Chair.
Councillor Eagle.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair. I just wondered, Doug, through you or the process, is there any way that we can get the developer to post a bond or a deposit that if this isn't done, that it'll be deducted for the cleanup by the town?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's actually a very good question. To some extent, I'm having the same thoughts. What are the tools available to the town to leverage the issue with the developer? And I would like to, without giving an answer today, because I don't have one, I would like to have that discussion with the town engineer, who is more familiar with the relationship in the with the developers in the operations in the field side of things. We do have a subdivision agreement that we're working on. We're only asking today that it for authorization to move forward with the agreement in its substantive form, which means we could adjust it before we actually sign it. And where I'm going with this is what we're talking about is operations. And you know, to what extent does the town have authority to direct the operations of a business? I think the first step is we need to meet with the owner, and we need to meet with the site supervisor, and we need to clearly explain the frustration of council and committee with the operations, and see if we can get some understanding there. Because at the end of the day, it is on-site due diligence that does make the difference. And that's what I learned when I spoke to the site supervisor from another project. It takes that on-site effort. And if we can't get some comfort from that, ideally what we hope to do is finalize the subdivision agreement in the short term, being within the next month or so. Maybe there's an opportunity through a clause requiring an operations manual that we can apply to phase 3 as well. I'm thinking out loud, I'm not promising this, it's just that to advise that yes, staff have been thinking along the lines of Councillor Belanger to what leverage do we have.
Okay. Councillor Belanger.
Well, just one last point is the developer is eroding some credibility for me personally. So when they say they'll maintain the site better, and in my mind it's still very substandard, then when they say they're going to do a bridge by a certain time or do this by a certain time, you know, is it really going to happen, or is it all boiling down to dollars and cents? You know, I certainly don't know the finances or anything else, but I know that the development started long before we had a significant change in the values of real estate. So I have to believe that the prospect for profitability has improved significantly over the last 2 years, yet there seems to be a reluctance to make even a small investment to appease both their customers and council, and that is the concerning aspect. And I will tell you that the residents are also at that same point. They're sort of saying is, yeah, well, we said the bridge would be worked on over the winter. Well, what if it doesn't get worked on over the winter? They could be potentially in this, I'll call it a dump site as opposed to a construction site for another 2 years. If you or I moved into a new home and 5 years later, our driveways aren't paved and the boulevards aren't in and the sidewalks aren't in and the road's not paved, and you know, I think we would be pretty upset, and I think that's a reasonable expectation, that even though you buy a first home in a development, I don't think that you expect that you're gonna reach into life without seeing it completed, you know, so.
I just have one question, just to wrap it up here, is do we have property standard bylaws for construction sites?
I apologize, I do not know the answer to that. That's something we would want to ask our Chief Bylaw Officer. Earlier I commented that I would like to discuss this with the town engineer, who is not available today, who is much more familiar with field operations. with developments. And again, we're looking at what leverage does the town have to force the issue if we have to.
Okay, no more comments from anyone here? You got your, Councillor Stockwell, did you have your hand up? No, okay.
Just one more point of clarification, Doug. So our leverage right now today, you know, like if we just approve both items that are on the table, you know, then basically we've given the developer a pass. Is there any opportunity today to leverage an approval at the next council meeting and give them 1 week to demonstrate that they've heard the message?
Through you, Madam Chair, I think we could deliver that message. In fact, I think the message has been heard through Mr. Baldasingham, who's in the audience, and that there is an expectation for a very short and brief turnaround by the developer for this site. So that would include, you know, cleanup of the garbage areas around. They've consolidated the garbage in one area, but it's still, there's garbage in that area. You know, in terms of construction materials, you know, there's potential for better cleanup and organization of those construction materials on the site as well. It all contributes to the livability of the site, and definitely there are people living there right now. So we can verbally deliver that message to the developer and have staff out on site by next Monday or Tuesday to see if there has been an improvement. With regard to the first part of the question, there is a standard, and the developer has been meeting that standard in terms of street cleaning, so scraping it and sweeping it and putting water down. It's just in this situation the impact is much worse, because as the clay gets tracked onto the street and it's very fine, even if you scrape it, there's still a fine layer, and that's what gets lifted as the cars go by. So it's an element of, can we increase the current standard in terms of frequency of maintenance for watering and sweeping, and that's where we want to talk to the developer.
Well, I was thinking even with the weeds growing, I mean, normal residents, they have to get rid of, you know, those tall grasses, what have you, around the mailboxes. And to me, someone would be calling property standards if it was a regular residential area, that they hadn't done their duty on their property. So I just wasn't sure how subdivision agreements work with our property standards. So thank you. So I do have a resolution before me. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Fulci and seconded by Councillor Belanger. Resolved that Development Services section of Coordinated Committee recommend Council lift the holding H symbol for Phase 3 of the Villas of Upper Wasaga Plan of Subdivision for Bay Cliff Homes, provided an amending subdivision agreement has been executed and the town required securities have been posted by the developer to the satisfaction of the town. Call the vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillor Belanger,
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Fulci,
In favor?
Councillor Bray,
In favor?
Councillor Eagle,
In favor?
Mayor Smith,
In favor.
Councillor Stockwell,
Opposed.
pardon me, Chair Smith.
Opposed.
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 5 in favor and 2 opposed.
Okay, go on to subdivision condominium matters, section C. F1, urban design guidelines for townhouses and apartments. And I just pulled this and wanted to know if Doug would explain a little bit more so we're quite clear on the policy.
I'm going to ask Mr. Wukash to join us.
Okay, thank
He is
you.
the author of the report, and the urban design guidelines have been his portfolio to prepare. And as just a general opening, the town has been experiencing an increase in townhouses as a housing form. where 10 years ago, 90 to 95% of our housing starts were single detached. Right now, it's probably closer to 55% of housing starts are singles, and the rest are multi and townhouses. So it's creating an impact because what we want to do with these guidelines is have some continuity in the street, and the townhouses are a different housing form, so we want to look at how they affect the surrounding land uses, which a lot of times they back right onto single detached, and also how they affect the street. So I'll allow Mr. Wukash to fill us in the greater detail.
Thank you, Mr. Herron, and through you, Madam Chair. The purpose of the design guidelines is really to up our expectations for townhouse and apartment style type of dwellings in our community. As Doug mentioned, we've seen a lot more interest in this form of housing, and that's going to continue. We flesh out our downtown and other areas of intensification that we look at through our official plan update, which is ongoing right now. So the focus is on the higher density forms of housing, and mainly how they relate to the public realm, being the street, and how they address the street in a way that provides for pedestrian safety, as well as a positive impact on the street, rather than sort of presenting a face of the vehicle in the main visual area of the home, for example. So there's a number of different aspects of urban design that are included within these guidelines that address that sort of thing, and address compatibility with adjacent lower density forms of housing that can be impacted from overlook and shadow and those sort of impacts from taller buildings on lower density forms of housing. So this guideline is a measure that we're looking to put in place now in advance of our official plan update, just to have some more control over the design of projects like this right now. So we've been applying them as well in conversations leading up to this point, but we're asking council to adopt them now so that we can formally have them in place and use them to improve the aesthetics and the public realm and the look of our projects in town.
Thank you. Any questions around the table? Discussion? Okay. Thank you very much, Nathan. The other one I pulled is the revised growth plan for the Golden Horseshoe 2017 and the coordination review of provincial plans. Oh, there is a motion. Okay, I'm sorry. Moved by Councillor Eagle, seconded by Councillor Belanger. Urban design guidelines for townhouses and apartments. Resolved that the Development Services section of Coordinated Committee recommend to Council that the revised urban design guidelines for townhouse and apartment built form be approved to provide guidance to the development community in improving the quality of the built form in Wasaga Beach. Any comments? Okay. Call the vote.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councillor Belanger.
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi.
In favor?
Councillor Bray.
In favor?
Councillor Eagle.
In favor.
Councillor Stockwell.
In favor.
Mayor Smith.
In favor?
Chair Smith.
In favor.
Thank you. The motion carries on a vote of 7 in favor, 0 opposed.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on, the revised growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe, coordinated review of provincial plans. And I pulled that again too because I had some concerns about our growth and how much property we have. And I talked to Doug quite extensively about this, but I just wanted to, Doug, you just give a brief overview of what this impact has on us. So.
On the overall growth plan.
Yeah.
So the growth plan has been in existence since 2005, and the province has been refining it. And the simplicity of the growth plan is the province is looking to put a stop to sprawl and direct municipalities to build up, so greater intensity. The rationale behind it is complete community. So a complete community is, it starts with the built form. And it's a walkable community. It's a community that's a lot tighter, where the services are less expensive for municipalities to provide because they're compact. So there's the basis shell of what we're looking at. The province has applied some population targets to the county of Simcoe, and the current growth plan has just recently been updated, and the province has been refining it. And so where we are at right now, this information that's before committee is the refinements that the province is proposing to the growth plan. So again, I would ask Mr. Wukash and Nathan here to possibly walk us through some of the ones that are particular to Wasaga Beach. Employment lands, affordable housing. Much of it would be indoctrinated or inserted into our new official plan as we go through that official plan update over the next year and a half.
Thank you. So the really key piece for us right now is that the new growth plan came into effect on July 1st of 2017. So any decision of council regarding planning matters has to be consistent with that document. So there are some, as Doug mentioned, refinements that have been made. A lot of the growth plan has sort of uploaded some of the key responsibilities to the county. So for instance, from a housing standpoint and an employment standpoint, the county is being looked at as a sort of the clearinghouse or the authority to do county-wide employment studies, for example, before we're able to change or redesignate any of our current employment lands for other uses. The province is also looking at an agricultural land strategy and also a natural heritage mapping exercise that would apply to all lands within the growth plan outside of settlement areas. So they're looking at sort of coordinating efforts across jurisdictions throughout the growth plan. Those two last items don't affect us because we are wholly a settlement area, and we are able to address our natural heritage system policies through our own official plan. So those are a few of the sort of high-level items that have come into play through the new growth plan. There's also, it makes life a little bit more complicated for us right now as we're going through our official plan update, because we currently, with the county approving their official plan last year after a 7-year sort of Ontario Municipal Board hearing to address all the appeals, we're in a bit of a situation where we're behind a lot of the other regional municipalities within the growth plan area that already have updated their official plans to address growth targets that Doug mentioned to the year 2031. So we have to update our official plan from an employment and a growth perspective to the year 2031 before we're able to move beyond that to the year 2041, which this current growth plan has required for the last 3 or 4 years or so. As we're updating our official plan over the next year and a half, we will be required to conform to the bulk of this new document, but we're still bound to the 2031 growth targets before we can plan to designate lands beyond that time frame.
The short of that is that the town will be required to do an official plan update to bring it into compliance with the growth plan. The county is also doing another official plan update to account for this refinement, and we will in turn possibly be required to do a further official plan update in the next 2 years.
Councillor Rico.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just confused, and maybe you can help me here, as usual. Does this mean that we just designated a piece of significant wetland for development, which is way outside the town, or on the outskirts of town? Would this eliminate that?
No, it would not.
It wouldn't?
No, what the province is doing, my apologies. What the province is doing is they are actually stepping up their efforts. So in the past, they've been downloading all this legislation on municipalities and saying, this must happen, you go do the work. At this point, what the province is doing is the MNR and the Ministry of Agriculture are stepping up. So the MNR is performing a wetland mapping exercise for all of Ontario. But that exercise stops at the boundaries of settlements. So they won't be mapping lands inside the town of Wasaga Beach. That still is our responsibility. Our mapping is actually quite good. We will be refining it a little bit through this official plan update, but we don't expect it to change very much. It'll be just refining the boundaries a bit. And it's the same analogy or story with the agricultural lands. So the Minister of Agriculture is, again, mapping agricultural lands for potential, and the idea there is the province is looking to protect those agricultural lands, and they're stepping up a little bit more than they have in the past.
Follow up. In one breath, the government is saying no more sprawl, and in the other breath, they're saying you have to build up. Now, to me, why would you be taking away sufficient wetlands if that is on the outskirts of our whole town? Why wouldn't we be building up?
I'm not aware of any situation where we are taking away wetlands. We are definitely intensifying within the town. The growth plan, and what the approach the town is taking is that in building up does not mean that we still can't use those available lands elsewhere in the town for development. And that's very much occurring in town. So the Sunnydale secondary plan is a very good example of that. New applications as they come in are a good example of that. The approach the town is taking in terms of intensification is we are looking to establish 5 growth nodes, and that's where the primary areas for intensification would occur. So about a year and a half ago, I think it was October 2015, October 2016, staff brought a report forward saying that we know the growth plan is coming. We already know that we are getting medium density and high density on the boundaries or within low density neighborhoods where we really don't want them. It's a big impact. So council approved the nodes approach, and staff identified 5 nodes in town. So now as we go through our official update, official plan update, we're actually looking to create the policies for each of those nodes that would say, okay, this is the type of density that we would be looking for, likely higher than the density that's currently permitted in our official plan, but at the same time protecting the densities in the surrounding low density lands.
Thank you. Nope.
Councillor Bray.
A couple of questions. So in light of Simcoe County updating theirs and then us potentially re-updating the one that we're currently working on, should we be working on it? Like, are we pushing the OPA too quickly if we're gonna have to change it in 2 years? Because it's a very costly process to have to issue one and then change it.
It is the answer is yes, it is a costly process. We are required to bring our official plan up to date. There is somewhat of a necessity to do it now anyway, given that we're under, we are a municipality who is realizing a lot of growth. And I will tell you that our official plan as it stands today, it is not designed to handle that growth. I had 3 requests yesterday from developers asking to meet with me about proposed developments on lands. I had 3 requests the day before. Last week we met a developer with a 250 unit concept plan. The week before had the same meeting. There is an intense pressure right now because the investment community is looking at Wasaga Beach as a very healthy place to invest. So our 2003 official plan and 2003 zoning bylaw, they're designed to accommodate growth from that era. But they're not designed to accommodate the growth that the province anticipates and also the growth that the market is looking to bring to us right now. So there is an onus on the town to bring our own policies up to date with what the market is looking for and what the province is looking for. It's unfortunate that we will likely have to revisit the official plan in about 2 years. I suspect that it will be a tweak. It will not be a major overhaul that we're doing right now. And there's no harm to the tweak except that acknowledged there's an extra cost to the town. But that is true for all the other municipalities in Simcoe County and the greater GTA as well.
And just further to that one, reading through the report, it says that Wasaga Beach is not identified as a primary settlement area within Simcoe County. Is that something as a council we should be working to have changed? Because are there benefits to being recognized as a settlement area in terms of getting high school or other things that we need to be a complete community?
You want that one? That's a very good question. From a growth perspective, I don't think it has an impact on any type of restriction to the growth that we expect and that we will see. The policies in the growth plan encourage the language is the bulk of development to occur within primary settlement areas, and that's a conversation in terms of implementing that with the county that they'll be having with all of the local municipalities over the next year or so. From our perspective so far, the conversation has indicated that that's not going to slow growth down in Wasaga Beach. From the other standpoint, in terms of supporting other initiatives like high schools and hospitals and other larger services, it could provide a benefit, but I think the growth that Wasaga Beach is seeing is going to happen whether we're called a primary settlement area or not in the growth plan.
Thank you. Councillor Stoll.
Yes, through you, Madam Chair, to Mr. Heron. So, Mr. Heron, what has brought on this sudden interest by the Development Committee to say Wasaga Beach is a good place to do business, in your opinion?
Sorry.
Well, all of a sudden now you've got developers knocking on your door, and your comment was that they've recognized that Wasaga Beach is a good place to do business. And that wasn't a year ago or 2 years ago. This has happened now. What's brought that on?
There's a number of factors. In fact, the development community has always recognized Wasaga Beach as a good place to do business.
Except they didn't do business.
Well,
Yeah.
What was recognized, and we did get feedback from this, was our approvals process is flexible. So we try to listen as much as possible to the needs of the developers and respond to their needs, as opposed to some of the processes you might see in the GTA, which is very cut and dried. The real answer to your question is more linked to the growth plan and more linked to market drive as well. So anecdotally, we know that the cost of land in Toronto has significantly risen to the point that a lot of the developers in Toronto just can't afford to do business there anymore. So they're looking to invest. So they are reaching out to other municipalities. We seem to be garnering a lot of interest from that new investment coming from Toronto. So these new contacts that are coming to me and that I'm meeting with, they are probably 80% new investors coming to the beach. And what they're looking at is they're looking at properties that have been silent for 8 years, silent since 2008 and 2012. And they're particularly interested in properties that have been partway through the development process, but never went anywhere. But the market is right now for it.
Follow up. So do you think it's got anything to do with the commitment for the development of the downtown plan?
I think it has a large connection. The downtown development plan has really been well received through the development community in Toronto. It's well known, and it is a very small world. So the development community is well aware of what the town is up to. The development community is aware that there are other approval authorities who are involved with the downtown master plan, namely provincial ministers. There's a lot of good things happening in Wasaga Beach that the development community and the investment community is taking confidence from. So a lot of the decisions council is making is driving that confidence in the market. And that's what I'm hearing when the developers come in to talk to me about the potential of developing lands.
So what you're saying is that the downtown development plan hasn't brought developers to build downtown, they brought developers to build right across the municipality.
Well, that's correct. There's a big interest in any available
And
lands.
that's got to be good news. And as a planner, what do you think? Is that good news?
Oh, I think it's very, very good news. My tenure here has been since 2003, and every year it gets busier and busier, and every year I think it's got to level off. But in the past 3 years, it has significantly, exponentially taken off in terms of the investment community being interested in Wasaga Beach.
So council's doing something right.
First, I think Andrew has a comment.
Yeah, if I could, through you, Madam Chair, I just wanted to add a couple of points in response to Councillor Stockwell's question. Myself, I've had an opportunity to meet with a number of developers over the last weeks, months, and a couple of years. There are 3 things that are driving the developer interest. One is affordability. People are getting priced out of GTA. A lot of the land is accounted for. Developers acquired land years ago, and developers are looking for new opportunities. Particularly mixed-use developers are having trouble securing land in the GTA to build, so they see the opportunity in Wasaga Beach. The second is vision, and actually I should group second and third into one. It's vision and predictability. What every developer I talk to says to me is they are thrilled with what they are seeing from this current council, that Wasaga Beach is identifying clearly where it wants to go in the future. Developers do not like to invest in unpredictable communities. If a community doesn't have clarity about what it wants to be when it grows up, developers don't want to be part of it, because investing in buildings is a significant investment. If you don't know what the guy next door to you is going to do, you're not going to take that risk. So the fact that we're doing things like the downtown plan, like a nodes and corridor approach, like overhauling ROP, that is sending signals across the development community that Wasaga Beach is getting its house in order. We are bringing ourselves into conformity with the growth plan and with provincial direction. And that's critical that everyone understands. The downtown plan is what the province is telling us we must do. This is not an option. We have to do this stuff. So the development community is reacting positively to all of this.
Thank you. George, next item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just perhaps for the benefit of the committee, you could just outline if there's been any changes to the population numbers allocated toward the town of Wasaga Beach from the previous growth plan to this new growth plan, just to make sure that the committee is aware of that with respect to the population numbers.
Sure. So the new growth plan hasn't actually changed any of the population targets or employment targets at this point. We currently have to change our official plan to conform with the 2031 targets of 27,500 people, which we see that we will exceed by that time, probably far exceed it, based on our current growth. And 3,500 jobs is identified in the growth plan, which we in fact actually exceed right now. So that was an error made in the background information by the consultant that prepared the information. We're actually, the target is around 5,400 jobs by 2031. And the growth plan was amended in 2013 to extend the planning horizon of the document. So what that means in English is that the initial growth plan planned to 2031, and it was extended to 2041 for an additional 10-year time frame. There was an aggregate total given to each regional municipality. So the county of Simcoe has a number. I don't recall what that number is right now for 2041, and that's part of the exercise that the county, in conjunction with all of the local municipalities, have to work on in the next year or so that we spoke about earlier, in order to allocate where all that additional population goes. So from Wasaga Beach's standpoint, with our growth approach through our upcoming official plan, seeking out intensification types of mixed-use growth in our downtown and some of the other nodes in the town, that will continue to plan in accordance with the policies of the growth plan, and we will work with the county over the next year or so to identify what's realistic for Wasaga Beach to accommodate for the next 10-year horizon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Then that just leads to my next comment, which is that we have capacity for 38,000 people. And another factor that makes us attractive as a community is that we have water and sewer capacity.
Great.
And so when developers are looking to invest in a community, having water and sewer capacity in the ground ready to go is a very important factor as well.
Councillor?
Yeah, just, Doug, you talk about the market, but I mean, the reality is we have a huge migration of boomers that are moving out of the GTA as they retire. And there's been a lot of articles, on the Bay and different ones that talk about the boom times for the next 8 to 10 years for South Georgian Bay. And a lot of the projections that were made in the past were prior to a development plan for a downtown and the redevelopment of our beachfront. Those developments and that $645 million initiative is going to attract people because it's going to provide good jobs, it's going to attract families, it's going to attract boomers to choose us over other urban centers along South Georgian Bay, who are all investing in their municipalities. And when you say we will exceed, the potential is we may far exceed the people that will be attracted to make Wasaga Beach their home in the foreseeable future. So,
Through you, Madam Chair, I just wanted to build on that too. In terms of how we grow as a community, the targets of the growth plan are really they're just a number. The province is asking us to plan by number. So we foresee that we will exceed the numbers in the growth plan, and we're very well positioned from a servicing standpoint to accommodate that. We're an amenity area that everybody wants to come and visit, and many people want to come and move to. And the reality is that the growth plan targets are just that. So we can exceed those targets, provided that we're growing in a way that conforms with the growth plan, and that is to intensify within our downtown and our other nodes, and plan for a broader variety of housing through higher density forms, apartments, rental, to expand the range of housing in our community, so that provides affordability for young families, for seniors that need smaller places to downsize to as well. So everything we're doing right now is really good in the eyes of the growth plan lens, and the county is on board with the direction we're going as well.
Thank you. Councillor Bray, and then
So I just have a numbers question, probably to our CEO. we've had some developers that have had to apply to the county for growth allocation. So this 27,500, is that how big we can get unless they apply for this growth allocation, or can we grow to the 38,000 for which we have a capacity? So why do they have to go to the county to ask
Well,
for people if?
this is why they pay planners money.
Because I'm trying to understand.
So, in plain English, in the former growth plan, the target was 27,500 for the town of Wasaga Beach. And then Nathan explained that the county expanded the horizon to 2041, but the full cap, I think it's 262,000 for the county of Simcoe, did not change. What the province allowed is for the county to borrow from the 2041 numbers, bring them forward, and distribute them around the county, but only to those developments that were outside the lands for urban development. So there was a line drawn around every municipality, and it differed from town to town because some of the townships, they're little cores of us, were a fairly big line. So we had 3 applications last fall, and to bring it home to us, the understanding of it, that were outside of that built boundary. And those 3 applications applied to the county for a portion of that 20,000 population and brought it forward. So it was an interim thing that the province allowed to allow municipalities to adjust as we go, but stay within the 2041 numbers.
So, and just to supplement that, so that.
So our
has-
27.5 is really.
That has been removed now from the new growth plan. That doesn't exist anymore. That was a kind of a one-time offer for all the municipalities in Simcoe County to take a piece of that 20,000 slush fund population, allocate it out for lands that were not designated for residential use at the time, and those are now designated in our official plan for residential use, but that sort of one-time offer is off,
Okay.
it's closed and it doesn't apply any longer.
Okay, thank you.
Does that make sense?
Councillor Eagle, you got?
No,
Okay, anybody else before I?
You said enough.
Oh.
Okay, I have,
Sorry, Madam Chair, I think Doug had a comment.
There's
really?
He can't beat the last one.
We're talking a lot of technicalities and a lot of legislation. The simplicity to the discussion and the importance to this to the town is under the term complete community. And you always try to find a way to explain it that ties it all together, makes it make sense. If you think of the town population right now, we're heavy on the retirement side, so age 50 plus. So the bell curve on our population is very low in the lower age groups, and then there's a big hump on the older age groups. When the province is talking about complete community, they're looking at a balanced bell curve, so that in the middle you've got families, you've got working people, you've got kids that go to high school. So what we are trying to do as a municipality with our official plan update is we are trying to shift our bell curve to a more balanced population. And it changes the taxation that's paid. It changes the number of cars on the road. It changes the kids that go to school. It's at the end of the day, it all comes down to the payable dollar. And a municipality that has a better balanced bell curve typically has a better balanced budget as well. It's because you're rolling in jobs, you're rolling in different factors that we don't have. So in some way, the timing is very, very good for the town of Wasaga Beach. The market is here. We're adjusting our policies. The provincial policies are all on the right track. So I'll stop there.
okay, thank you. I just had one comment, and I don't plan to get into it today, but something that we can look at later is, my understanding with the growth plan is that our business park cannot be used now for housing if that was to change. So we have to keep our business lands that we have right now.
Through you, Madam Chair, that's correct. Currently, until the county does a what's called a municipal comprehensive review on a county-wide basis to look at employment lands and how that is structured throughout the county. Local municipalities are basically stuck with what we've got from an employment standpoint. So over the last year, we've worked with the county on an employment lands budget, which basically looks at how much land we have designated for traditional employment land uses, which are manufacturing and industry. We haven't seen a lot of that type of industry wanting to locate here for various reasons. We're not on a major transportation route like the 400 or have a significant rail access. So we have a different industry in town, which is tourism. So as we plan our new official plan, we will be incorporating that into the picture, where we see our employment going in the future, how to bring other types of creative employment, flexible employment to town. But yeah, currently our business park is designated for those industrial type uses, and it will remain that way until the county looks at the bigger picture through their update in the next year or so.
Okay, any other discussion? We're fine. I have a resolution here. Sorry, Joe. Yeah. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Belanger, seconded by Deputy Mayor Byfolchi. Revised growth plan resolves that the Development Services section of Coordinated Committee recommend to Council that the staff report on the revised growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe 2017 be received for information.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Having heard the question, I'll call for the vote. Councillor Belanger.
In favor?
Deputy Mayor Byfolchi.
In favor?
Councillor Bray.
In favor?
Councillor Eagle.
In favor?
Councillor Stockwell.
Okay, yes.
In favor?
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Smith.
In favor?
And Chair Smith.
Okay. Can we, I've just been asked, can we take a 5-minute break?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Vote 7.